Welcome to the second day of our hackathon in the Hacking COVID. This is a hackathon organized by AyudaDigital, which is a young non-profit organization of digital professionals that are joined together to help out with the situation, not only the current situation, but what is going to happen in the upcoming months. And we're very lucky here that we have Álvaro González Garcia, one of the founders and members of the organization. He's got his PhD in the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands. He's in physics, and we're gonna listen the very, very amazing project the team is working on for how to control the crowd here in with the COVID. So welcome and thank you very much, Álvaro, for your contribution.
Oh my God, thank you very much, Carlos. That was really. It's not that much. I mean, no, but it's fine. It's fine. In any case, yes, as Carlos said, I am a doctor in physics by University of Utrecht. The Dutch will say and will probably correct me after this horrible Dutch pronunciation. This talk is part of the hackathon, Hacking COVID, virtually organized in Tenerife, Canary Islands, and as such, I have a small venting staff with Canary Island products or localities that I introduced it before offline. So no need to do so, because let's jump into physics and let's talk about the crowd control in post-corona or just release in lockdown times, okay? I will proceed now to share screen. Yes. And apologize, this is only the second time I do an online talk. The first time was the Spanish version just before this one, so you know. There we go. So, and of course, yes, there it goes. So this is what I want to introduce you. I wanted to introduce you to the physics behind crowd control. And this may sound a bit like I am losing my mind or I'm a bit like a sectarian person, but actually that's not the case. What I want to introduce you are rational guidelines towards the so-called new normality. As I just said, this is a hackathon organized in Tenerife. I am particularly born in Los Hilos. It's a tiny village here. You can barely see the island actually. And I have lived for 5 years all the way here in the Netherlands. And well, it always makes me a bit sad because if I will have to go back working now home, I think that will be impossible. And I really think it's going to take me some time to go back home. So, you know, to ease my spirit, volunteering has really helped me. As Carlos introduced, I have been volunteering with the non-profit organization AyudaDigital COVID. And we have organized this amazing Hacking COVID, whose whose project will be presented in YouTube in the format of 5-minute videos that I kindly invite all of you to check because we have very interesting initiatives, besides, of course, the one I'm going to eventually narrow down this contribution to. So let's get to the meat. So people who has worked with me know that semantics is very important for me. When we talk about crisis, we have to understand what crisis actually means, because we tend to associate crisis only with negativity. But from the root of the word, with every crisis, there is also an opportunity, because after a crisis, a change has to come, and this change will be for better or worse. And the direction of this change depends on all of us. One of the things that really lifted my spirits during these times, during these crisis times, was the second of my demonstration in Greece. So these Greeks that I normally associate to be like crazy in the Panathinaikos basketball games, you know, flares and all of that stuff, decided to take back Syntagma Square. They went all out. They positioned themselves respecting social distance, forming what we know as a crystalline structure. So seen from the air, these Greeks could demonstrate respecting social distance by forming crystalline structures. That's amazing. So as I say, with every crisis, there is an opportunity. And what we have to tackle is actually the proper question, because history shows that there is a huge danger on simplifying our current reality to the question, what went wrong? The proper question here is, what can we do? So I would like to be a bit more like the Greeks. I would like to provide guidelines to crowd control. And I would like this speech to be a collaborative shout out, like we have to work together, we need to work together, and my short volunteer experience have shown me that is with different backgrounds how you achieve the best results. So if I talk of a team, I should introduce that team. So let me give you the fellowship of the crowd up today. So we have currently living in Cambridge in the UK, Alessio. He's a PhD in physics. I was a master student together with him with the same supervisor. We have James Martin, a current colleague of my postdoc in Utrecht. And we have Sander, also from the Netherlands, where I actually lived. I live in Delft, and he lives in Leiden. And we have Gras, who doesn't have a background so far, but for the layout, you can see he's an amazing coder, and he has showed that in these days of the hackathon. For me, what is important is that this idea I'm going to pitch now is also supported by the local craft women in Tenerife, Cristina and Maite. They are the founders and craft women of behind Pisando Colores and Maite de Papel. I also invite you to check their art because it's just amazing. This team is missing. It's really missing because this idea has a probability of growing, and this idea is missing you. And I hope you will like to collaborate into that after this talk. So with this, I would like you to introduce you of how physics can control masses, because I'm a physicist by training. So I don't know if you're aware of what a mosh pit is, or if you have ever been in a mosh pit. In essence, it's something very funny. I used to enjoy it more when I was 20 than now that I'm 30. But when there is a mosh pit, this happens. Okay, it's very funny, but also we see that there is colligative motion. Due to people pushing each other, we see flow patterns rising in mosh pits when observed from the air. That's amazing. And actually, people have studied this from a physical perspective. A physicist just published in 2013 the physics behind mosh pits, and he released a web app where you can actually play with the physics of mosh pits. Let's do that for a bit, okay? Apologize. So here we go. We open the script, and now we have mosh pit simulation. Amazing. So here we have a rather calm mosh pit, but we see that if we increase the velocity, our moshers, the red particles, start pushing more our calm concert people, and they even drag people who didn't want to be part of the mosh pit into the mosh pit. Now this, if you have been in a mosh pit, you realize it's recovering real-life behavior. You can play with many different parameters here, like it's very funny, and I could just spend my whole day playing with this script actually. But there is here something that I think may be of use in current times, because when we go back to our streets, imagine each one of us is this black cycle, and we are all, with this social distancing between us, and somebody may get too nervous and start just moving around and disrupting us as a crowd. So I actually think this model could be applied also in the going back to in the construction towards a new normality. So if this talk ever arrives to the authors of this paper, I would really love to hear back from them. Now I will just go back to the slides, hoping I don't do a mess. Yes, right. Great. We humans, by definition, are egocentric, and we think that, okay, we can understand human crowds, so what else? Well, I give you penguin crowds here. Now, again, as a physicist, what I see here is a solid of penguins surrounded by the gas state of penguins. So we have a cluster, and around it, there is penguins like moving freely. And the dynamics of these penguin clusters, of penguin huddles, has also been studied. And it turns out that the colligative motion of penguins is actually dictated by the action of individual penguins who all of a sudden, due to discomfort, just decide to step. And this creates a traveling waves that causes the whole penguin huddle to move all at the same time. Okay, great. So, wow. I promise you I'm going to make you like crowd control experts in the next 5 slides. This was my introduction. Let's jump into a bit of physics, okay? But I will not go very much into the details. I give you the ideal gas. You may remember this from your high school. In an ideal gas, particles have no volume, so they just simply don't feel each other. And the ideal gas pressure, the very well-known ideal gas law, what tells us is that these particles, upon moving like randomly, they collide with the outside part of the box, providing our ideal gas law. Now, a very natural first correction to this ideal gas is what we call the hard sphere model. So now our particles have volume, so they actually feel each other through their finite volume. Now, if we think of humans, penguins, of crowds in general, this is the first natural correction to account for. Now we have a finite volume by which we fill each other. The last thing you need to know is which states of matter emerge due to precisely interactions with excluded volume. So if I have particles with volume in a very dilute state, I still retain ideal gas behavior. As I increase the density, my particles start to fill each other by their finite volume. And if I further increase the density of particles via a thermodynamic equilibrium route, I form crystalline structures. If I want to talk of crowd control, these crystalline structures will be the Greeks on the 2nd of May in Syntagma Square. I can also retain, by a kinetic approach, a glass state, an amorphous state. In this case, the particles do not form like well-arranged structures. And what I believe is that this is more like the social behavior expected than this one. So the model I will propose seeks for taking back our plazas, accounting for the less efficient particle packing to, in a way, retain human behavior. Now, I wouldn't be a rational person if I would be the first one thinking about that. So an eminence in the field of molecular simulations, Professor Dan Frenkel, present this sketch, which is present in the book of my former promoter, Renko Chanir. And we can see also here a resemblance with the states of matter. So in essence, when you have a buffet, we have far from the buffet a gas-like structure, and we have like a specific absorption of people next to the food because we all want to eat. We have even like chain formation. Okay, that's wonderful, actually, the amount of information contained in this scheme. And in a regular dinner, we will be more like in a crystalline structure. You know, we will be sitting at specific points in a space with a regular pattern. Okay, so now we know what we want to achieve are actually random loose packings, as they call, so glassy states. Okay, here comes the actual project I had in mind. So the idea I had not so long ago, in which the amazing team of programmers, craft movement, and such I presented before, is working very hard during this hackathon to deliver into web app. So let me introduce the hypothesis, and I will be very happy to discuss the hypothesis because a model is as good as these hypotheses are. So I will assume that people are hard disk with a radius of 2 meters. So if I will see my map from the top, what I see is people is surrounded by a hula hoop of 2 meters, and this hula hoop avoids people to come closer to each other than this 2 meters, which is slightly larger than the WHO regulations, and this has its justification. Another hypothesis is that people want to buy, sell stuff again in the plazas. I think here we will agree. We need the most accessible tools, something in which you can draw a plaza and get an estimate of the plaza capacity according to the new regulations. And we account for the people packing in the most inefficient manner. Why? Because what I believe that in this way, we account for free will, in a way. We account for escape routes, which is important, so people can escape from each other. And as unfortunately, not everybody has social awareness, by doing the most inefficient particle packing, we're ensuring the most secure social approach. So what we are generating in physical terms is a very loose random packing. As a test case, we actually have a lot of fun developing this idea, and we took Piazza Garibaldi in Menaggio, Italy. The reason is that this plaza is one of the most oddly shaped ones in Europe, and we just ran the preliminary version of this script and just place it, people, constrained with the new social distance in this square. What this algorithm gives us back is the square capacity adjusted to the new normative, and also the surface fraction of people. In this case, 60% of the plaza available surface is occupied by people who is separated at least 2 meters between them. As I said, I'm originally from Los Silos, Tenerife, so of course I also directly jumped to implement this method in Los Silos. And in order to have good statistics, we have to run this simulation multiple times. So this is a completely statistical process. One of the things the team is trying to implement during this hackathon is actually to account for dynamics, what we call Langevin dynamics of these particles. So not just be completely random, but trying to achieve like a sort of equilibrium state of the particles. But don't take me for granted. My team is actually more aware of the idea at the moment than myself. So this is a beautiful Plaza de la Luz. This is where we have seen this sort of Corona-proof party just a moment ago. And one of the mottos in volunteering is think global, act local. Well, what I have come to understand is that open software what allows you to both think and act local. And this is a very interesting twist. So we can actually apply this method in principle to any square in the world, Piazza Menaggio, Plaza de la Luz, Puerta del Sol in Madrid, and please give me that the square of the village, the plaza of my village, is just much nicer than the plaza in the capital. So there we go. Here we have just a snapshot of the simulation I showed you before with the outcome of our script, which is the number of people in the plaza and the surface density. In this case, it's 0.62. So 62% of the Plaza de los Silos area is occupied by people respecting social distancing. If we move to Puerta del Sol, we see that it's a much larger plaza. So more people fit, of course. Now we have 191 people fitting in the plaza, and we have a surface fraction which is slightly lower. And we think that this is actually a packing problem because the aspect ratio of Puerta del Sol is rather elongated. You know, it's not so square as Plaza de la Luz. Hence, packing in Puerta del Sol is less efficient than packing in Plaza de la Luz. We want to actually apply this to take back our public spaces. So if we want is to take back our public spaces, we want to set events in our public spaces. Here is where the unmeasurable contribution of our local craft women, Cristina and Maite, comes to play. They want to set, again, craftsmen market in Plaza de la Luz. So what we did for them was optimizing the places of the vending stands around the perimeter of the square. And that provides us, which is the optimal number of stands, respecting the regulated distance between them with the regulated size. So this is a realistic model in a way. And we can also provide now, which is the new capacity, which is of course reduced when we have an event. And when, so if we don't have an event, more people fit than if there is an event. And we can furthermore calculate a sort of a square efficiency. And here is with common sense comes into play, because if we have more stands, we will have less people per stand. So, you know, governments will say, no, let's reduce the amount of people who is venting their goods. No. What we propose, what logic proposes, actually not us, is that if you optimize the positioning of the stands, you have less customers per stand, hence less probability of clogging the stand, hence a safer scenario. We could also try to set up, I don't know, a demonstration like the Greeks did in Syctama Square the 2nd of May, and we can also enclose our Puerta del Sol and collect again the new surface capacity, which is in this case much more dramatically reduced as expected due to the larger size of the square of the plaza. This is a preliminary model, and as any preliminary model, it's not perfect and it's not meant to be. This is just an idea, and during this hackathon, the team I am mentoring is actually working on implementing and further develop this idea in the form of a web app, as I have said many times. So the first criticism and natural point of this method, as it is right now, is the lack of obstacles in the square. Well, I just heard from Alessio, one of the team members, that obstacles are already there in our web release to come up soon, namely tomorrow. So another future implementation to take into account is not only obstacles, it's love. In these crisis times, we cannot forget love. So a couple will not define a disc, will define a union of two discs. So this will be me with my fiancé just walking around, I don't know, Plaza de la Luz, Utrecht, Dome Square, or wherever. And what we can further implement in the model, straightforwardly at the moment, by the way, is just a different shape. So we can have a mixture of single people and couples, and calculate what is, again, what the square capacity, accounting for couples, the square efficiency, and so on, and so on, and so on. Of course, here is we need collaboration with people with different backgrounds, because we don't know at the moment which is the ratio of couples to singles. But as I said, this is a preliminary idea, and we can build on and further develop on it as much as we want. And when we mean think really global, I mean really have fun and look out for the most bizarre large square in Europe. And this is actually the square, Samara, Russia. Okay, it's not really Europe, sorry. So we can actually calculate the humongous square capacity of this plaza, still according to the new Corona regulations. Great, so it's a very versatile and easy to implement method. And we are already applying. Like when you have such an idea, and when you believe so strong in an idea, and more especially when you have the support of the local craft women in your village, that gives you wins. So as I had said with Cristina and with Maite, we are trying to implement this into a rational model to take back our Mercadillo del Día de Canarias, the 30th of May, in, well, it's grown here, it should be in the Plaza de la Luz and not in El Convento, But as we see, it doesn't really matter. For the fact of the application, we just need to draw the shape and it will give us the actual capacity of the square and also the square efficiency, the plaza efficiency. Moreover, my lab manager at Utrecht University thinks this may be helpful in phase 2 of going back to the labs, when more than one person is allowed to the lab. Right now, because of the open source nature of the hackathon, and of course, because of the much nicer approach of open source in general as compared to closed code, we are limiting ourselves to public spaces which we can access from Google Maps. But of course, the algorithms work the same if we just give us the map, the plant floor of the place where you want to host an event, which is COVID approved. So what I want to do with this pitch is a call for the collective intelligence. We cannot think of all possible scenarios. So there's in and outflow of people to be considered. We have to consider panic escape routes. We have to consider most efficient flow patterns, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. We don't have the background to do everything. We don't have the time to do everything. So if we unite, I'm sure we can achieve many things with this idea. If you believe in it, at least 10% of how much I believe in it. So in conclusion, and that's in Spanish, sorry, this is conclusions, acknowledgements, and who support us, who validates this, who has checked this idea and hasn't called me crazy for bringing it up. We have rational guidelines for taking back our public spaces using a simple and versatile method. The project I mentored during the Hacking COVID, Retoma tu Plaza con Cabeza, will bring this into a web app. I'm pretty confident in the team because they just keep on showing me the huge talent to actually, and their passion, I think, for this idea. So as I said before, on Monday, we will have the web app, hopefully to be released, but it will not going to take long. So together we can make, and we are making, not only with this project, but with other projects in this hackathon and in other hackathons all over the world, we are making the best antivirus by calling collective intelligence. So I would like to actually pay respect to some of the people who took the time to just check this idea. I put here their faces, and it will take pretty long time to actually do that. I want to particularly acknowledge my colleague at AyudaDigital, because he really took a look to these slides and they look so nice thanks to him. And I want to finish this. This is a hackathon from Canary Islands to the world. And I want to evoke the lyrics of one of my favorite songs from the Canary Islands. It's called Aguanyac, or the idea that becomes all of us. I already mentioned this in the acknowledgements or in the public summary of my thesis, because this is for me a very powerful idea. In the cover of this album, we have this tree. It's called a drago. And in this case, the artists have depicted the drago as being constructed by people holding hands and working together. And this is exactly what I want with this pitch. I want that all of us with different backgrounds, scientists, non-scientists, programmers, lab managers, entities, we work together. I want to make a legal disclaimer. I'm not responsible for the misuse of this idea. I think it's actually a rational and well-constructed idea, but it's up to the pertinent authorities to use it or not. So with this, I would like to stop my presentation and to give the floor to you, because I really look forward to hear your feedback on this idea.
Well, Álvaro, thank you so much for your brilliant presentation. It was fantastic. Now,
Carlos, come on.
Yeah, I really like it.
I see that.
So now people are welcome to open up the mic, the camera if you want, and give us some feedback or raise some questions.
Don't be shy, come on.
Hi.
Ciao, Angelo.
How do you envision people using this? So if I get it correctly, this is the model that you presented, and it will be implemented inside, like be available through this web app. But
Yes.
Do you have an idea of how this, like what is the experience?
Yes.
How people will interact with this? Who will use it? When?
So yesterday I took, thanks to, well, I don't know, Alessio, do you want to maybe respond this answer? Because you are right now like coordinating the team, so that's probably best to drop this on you, right?
Thanks, Álvaro. Well, I guess you are up to date on the use case of the idea, but
It was my
our...
class yesterday, but you should put your camera so we see your face, Ale, while you...
Oh, yes. How do I do it in... Oh, yes, start video.
You have it in the bottom?
Yes,
Okay.
here we are.
Real programmer, this Alessio, as you see, guys.
So our idea for the general person to use it is simply to access the web app, decide a place or a square, a plaza, a public space it wants to check, and we have the Google Maps implementation there, so you can choose whatever place you want globally. You are free to draw the space you want to investigate, and to draw if you want any either obstacle or any stand you plan to put into, and then we give you as an output how many people will fit in there, and if you want also you can see the distribution of the person, so you can see if people are going to be crowded in a certain place or they're going to be more spread out. And we think we haven't thought yet of, let's say, a class of people who could make use of it. In our view, everyone in principle can access it and have fun with it. But in the case of an organizer of an event, we think it will be a great add in the sense that it would enable him or her to know in advance what is the capacity of the square, so that he can or she can regulate the event itself.
Yeah. So Ale, if I could just further build up on your response. So for me, what really makes me trust in the idea is that Cristina and Maite are already moving it in my village. So they are really trying to set up again the Sunday market using this rational model, this mathematical model, if you please to say so. So that's, for me, gives me more trust that the feedback from any professor, like the fact that my friends are trusting this idea and are liking this idea and are already implementing this idea. So that's our target audience. If you say, is everybody who thinks that using our not our model, but using like being self-aware and having social distance awareness, we should start to recover in our public spaces. And this is just a tool for that. So the audience will be anybody who wants to take back their space while respecting social distancing.
Thank you.
Thanks to you for your nice question, Angelo.
Any other question?
I think otherwise we can just call it a session. I think we can always just comment later on via the YouTube comments or whatever social output this will have, right?
Okay, yeah. So thank you everyone for being here and taking part of this excellent project and idea. Congratulations.
Come on, Carlos.
And best luck with
Okay.
it. Thank you.